Hey, good morning. Thanks for coming back to the channel. This is going to be a conversation about why constitutional carry, specifically the elimination of concealed carry licensing, is bad. And it has a lot of support to not do that. In other words, to maintain permitted concealed carry. Even law enforcement in most places hate the idea that they won't be able to know who's carrying just because they see a bulge. Now, obviously, this is tongue in cheek, but I'm going to go through some of the information in the writing and the op-eds, opinion pieces that have been put out. It's rampant. I mean, it's a desperate flooding of the news media on the terror of constitutional carry. Part of the reason for that is that before the end of this year, more than half of the states, think about that, more than half of the states will have permitless, if not constitutional carry. I make the distinction because in constitutional carry states, any citizen or permanent resident of the United States from whatever state they live are free to carry a firearm anywhere they wish in that state. Arizona is a good example. Permitless carry says you can carry anywhere you want without a permit in many cases if you are a resident of that state. So there's a slight difference depending on which state you're in on what the difference between constitutional carry, which is carry without any restrictions, and permitless carry. So the argument gets focused, right? Because people are saying, well, we can't have people carrying firearms concealed without some kind of background check and some kind of safety training and some kind of whatever. Ignoring that people can carry open with none of that. You don't need a permit to open carry in a state that has open carry. And most of them do. So think about what is the difference between seeing a person with a gun and have no idea what their training level and they have no permit, and seeing and not knowing that a person is carrying one. That's strictly a law enforcement thing, and in most cases, and it's the irrational idea that if someone is carrying concealed, that they're up to no good. That's the logical consequence of these arguments. The third is no one should be carrying a gun at all. So those are the three dynamics at work. If you need safety check. Well, if you buy a gun and you carry a gun open, you're carrying a gun and you're carrying a gun in public. So the fourth thing is no one should be able to carry a gun in public at all without oversight. And then there's the comparison of guns to cars. Well, you need registration for a car and so forth. Public safety is at risk. How? Because you can't see whether or not a person is carrying a firearm. You can't see a bad guy. Bad guys don't have permits. And bad guys are the ones that are doing the crime with a firearm. Albeit they're shooting themselves most of the time, but if public safety is the issue, go after bad guys, not after law-abiding citizens who have no intent to harm anyone. Let's see, there's another one. This idea that law enforcement doesn't like the idea is driven by two things: money and power. Law enforcement wants the ability to stop you if they see a bulge. Their rationale is you might not be authorized to have that bulge, so they want to check. Now, that is a warrantless search. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, because unless you are doing a crime, now someone could say, well, that's a Terry stop, or that's just a normal contact that a cop wants to have. Well, then the cop should have the same contact with someone who is open carrying, and they never do. They never do. The permitless carry problem for law enforcement is that in a lot of jurisdictions, they get a lot of money from permit fees and all of the things which is really a tax on a constitutional right. It's like a poll tax to vote back in the day. So that's the irrational. Those are all the arguments. They get put together like in a chunk, and they just go through them. And so you see, these are all the reasons why law-abiding citizens should not be able to carry where we can't see it. It just makes no sense. Well, if you can see it and there's no permit, and you can't see it and there is, what's the deal? Now, I will say that in Florida and in Texas, you could not carry open unless you had a concealed carry permit. Now, that's changed, but it used to be a few years ago that was the case. And it was getting at the argument, well, no one should be carrying in public unless they've been vetted by someone. Well, that just means no one should be able to buy a gun unless they've been vetted. And there is the background check that you got to go through. But that used to not be the case. People were buying guns all the time. No background check. Didn't need one. And you still don't need one. Right? Why? Because bad guys don't get background checks. You know, bad guys don't fill out paperwork. They just get a gun and go do what they're going to do. That's always been the case. Right? And we have laws, by the way, against misbehaving with a firearm. Always have. You can have one. You can carry it any way you want. But don't be stupid, because then there are consequences for doing that. So this is all about control of the percentage of the armed population that's out there in public. Now, with over half the country about to have permitless or constitutional carry, the states, and this is without any kind of ruling from the Supreme Court. Without any kind of ruling from the Supreme Court, the ability to carry, concealed or open, in more than half the country is huge. Huge. And you'll have 5 or 6 states that, without a Supreme Court ruling, will be the last man standing. And guess who they are, of course? California, New York, New Jersey, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, right? And maybe Virgin Islands or someplace. My point is that that is about 40% of the population are in those 6 states. So they're trying to come up against more than half of the states, which then are pretty much the other half of the people. And they're losing that fight. They're losing the argument because more and more people of all stripes, Democrat, Republican, left, right, conservative, progressive, black, white, male, female, all of them are starting to become part of the armed lifestyle and enjoying the right of their Second Amendment. But these other arguments are specious at best, and you will hear them, but it's just arm yourself with the counter conversation. Oh, you don't want concealed carry in public, but you have open carry in public, and what's the difference? Why concealed is so much more dangerous than this? Bad guys. Well, I'm not a bad guy. Somebody else is a bad guy, right? And the cops, they just don't want to lose that money from permits, and they want to have one other reason that they can go and screw with you. They want to be able to stop you. Keep in mind that law enforcement cannot stop your car just to see if you have a driver's license, right? They cannot stop you to see if you have a driver's license, right? They can only stop you if you have committed an infraction of traffic law, or they have probable cause that you have committed a crime. Then they can stop you. In part of their conversation, they ask you for driver's license, insurance, and so forth. But they can't say, let's stop people and see how many have driver's licenses today. They can't do that, right? It's the same as saying, let's stop everybody we see with a bulge and see if that's a gun. That's just as stupid. And they want to be able to do that. The problem is they do that in areas where racial profiling, man, it is bad when they start doing that kind of stuff. Let me tell you a story. And I'll explain why. And this is not to defend that kind of stupid behavior from law enforcement. But I got to tell you, I was in a big city in the Midwest, in Ohio, as a matter of fact, predominantly black city. And I was a big signed gun show, and I was visiting there, and I went, oh, gee, drop me off. I want to go to the gun show, right? And as I was dropped off, I look around, and this is downtown, Midwest, large city, predominantly black. See where I'm going with this. As I'm walking up to the door, I'm looking around going, what are these black folks doing with guns? I swear to God, my brain had those words come across inside it somewhere. And then I looked and I said, and they're dressed like regular black folks you see, like in the neighborhood. Males, females, and there's other folks going in too, but my brain is going, what? So then I go in. There's all kinds of people in there, different colors, different everything, walking around. Now, I live in Idaho. I'm not used to seeing more than 2 or 3 black folks at a gun show, ever. I swear. That's starting to change, but you know what I'm saying. So I go in and I go, ooh, okay. I'm not in Kansas anymore. No, I'm not in Idaho anymore. So I'm walking through, and I'm just enjoying. Oh, this is so cool. And I'm walking by, and there's these 4 sisters, right? So sisters meaning black women, for you unanointed. And they're looking at pistols, and they're racking a slide, they're checking stuff, and they're running the gun. I'm going, okay, yeah. And my brain's going, here's my point. If that could happen to me, because I've been out of that neighborhood for a while. Imagine, officer friendly, right? Who's never grown up and has the same stereotype that was starting to, manifest itself in my head. It is a real thing, and profiling of certain people is a real thing, and it does need to be on guard. So, notwithstanding the fact that a lot of gang crime is gang crime, and it's brown people doing that stuff most of the time in their own neighborhood. And I did another video on the lethality of that kind of stuff. You can check that earlier. But permitless carry and constitutional carry is getting ready to be the biggest thing out there. And I'm happy about that. I hope I live long enough to see the whole, may issue thing go away, if there is going to be any issue, and have more freedom to do that. So this has been a longer thing because it was kind of a ramble, but I've seen way too many conversations against constitutional carry and permitless carry. I thought I'd put my thoughts out there. Feel free to comment as you always do. If you are new, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell icon, and I look forward to seeing you again. As always, thanks for watching. Carry on.